Best friends, get in here right now. I want to share with you something that's very serious. You see the title about me essentially being told that I am at risk of having a stroke. It is not clickbait, it is very serious. So I want to share with you all what happened. Nia was making fun of me. She's like, do you have to be so perfectly positioned for this video? I said, well, listen, the doctor said that I was at risk of a stroke. He didn't say I have to look terrible on camera.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm just serious, like shit. It didn't blow my mind, babe. I'm still vain. So anyway, y'all, click like, click share. You know, I will say laughter really does lighten the mood for me, especially in a time like this. So excuse my humor. But yeah. I want you all to share this video because it can really help someone. And what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm not going to curse at all.
Really?
I'm not. I know, because I want people to share it. I know sometimes people don't share my videos because they're like, I don't want my past to see it. I don't want my whoever to see it, which I understand that's probably the appropriate choice in some instances. But in this instance, I really want people to know my story in terms of what I have gone through and what I'm going through. Because I think that especially during a time like this, we need to be thinking about our health a little bit more seriously than we thought about it in the past. So basically, for those girls who watch me, you know that over the past week or so, maybe a little longer, I have been pretty tired. I've been getting dizzy, I've been dealing with some nausea, just different symptoms, and I didn't know what it was. I thought I was just tired from my move, and I think that everyone around me thought the same thing. I found out that that was not necessarily the only reason why I was feeling that way. Maybe it was a contributing factor, but it wasn't the only reason I felt that way. So basically, a couple nights ago, I was unpacking. I just moved into my new home, and I was unpacking. And unpacking is, I feel like you can pack everything in 2 days. Unpacking is what takes longer. So I'm like unpacking day after day. Every time I finish filming, wipe off my makeup, start unpacking again. And this one particular evening, it was probably towards like 6 o'clock, I started to feel on my left side, my chest started to jump, right? And I didn't know what it was, but I do take serious anytime anything's happening on my left side. That same day, I was experiencing a headache that was pretty bad, and I was experiencing a little bit of nausea. So I was a little concerned, a lot more concerned. Mm-hmm. So what I did was, she nodded because she was here, she was concerned too. And she was trying to tell me that I need to, you know, take it more seriously and slow down. Everyone was trying to tell me that, but I wasn't listening. So what ended up happening was that I decided to stop packing, and I took a shower, and I was like, let me just rest and relax in bed. I did that for a couple hours, and then probably around 10 o'clock, I realized it wasn't changing. My heart rate was not feeling right. And so I called up the nurse advice hotline on the back of my health insurance card and said, basically, I don't know what I'm dealing with. Can you all help me? A very nice woman answered the phone. She reminded me of one of my aunts. And we talked, and she says, well, baby, given all the symptoms you're experiencing, I think you may want to consider going to an emergency room. And I was like, I don't want to go to an emergency room. I don't. I'm not anti-healthcare or anything like that. I didn't want to go to an emergency room because given everything that's happening in society right now, why would I want to? I just did not feel like I wanted to be in a situation where I could go to a doctor or go to an emergency room and potentially get sick while trying to find out if I am sick or not. You know, I just didn't want that. You know, people coughing and stuff like that. I didn't want to put myself at that risk if it wasn't absolutely necessary. And I told her, I was like, I really don't want to go to the emergency room. And she said, well, I'm just telling you what I think is best. She says, but if you want to wait a little while, give it an hour or two. And if you still are experiencing the same symptoms, I really would recommend that you get urgent care, get some immediate care. So I did what she said. I waited. Probably about an hour or so later, maybe a little bit more than that, the symptoms had not stopped. If anything, they just felt like they were getting worse. I did not know what it was, and I didn't know. So what I did was I went to Google and I typed in like urgent care facilities in my area. Now, for where I live in Los Angeles County, it's a big, LA is huge. Where I live in LA is a relatively sleepy beachfront community. So nothing is open over here like after 7 or 8 o'clock at latest. You know, after that, it's like nothing over here. The only thing you see around here is just the security cars driving up and down the streets. That's all you see. And so nothing was open from an urgent care perspective. But one thing that did pop up was something that they call like a concierge doctor. That's the name of the service, where they will send a doctor to your house. I called them. It was not cheap, but I figured this would be a safer alternative than going and sitting in an emergency room for potentially hours waiting to be seen. And during those hours that I'm waiting to be seen, I could be being exposed to something far worse than whatever I might have been dealing with. So the gentleman came, he came and knocked at the door. By the time he got here, it was probably almost midnight. And so I didn't let him come in. I wasn't trying to be rude, but I just didn't know. I'm just trying to keep my house safe. So I said, if you don't mind, sir, could we sit in the driveway? So I got a chair out the garage, we sit in the driveway, and he did the exam out there. He was probably in his mid-60s, and I bring that up because he acknowledged me. He says, my name is Dr. So-and-so. I've been a doctor for something like 30 some odd years or whatever. He was clearly very experienced. And he says to me, he's like, I saw boxes over here, by your front door when you opened the door. And I was like, okay. He's like, did you just move? I'm like, why is he asking about my life? And I was like, yeah, I'm in the process of kind of getting set up. So I've been here for a little bit, but I'm still trying to get myself set up. And then he's like, oh, okay, cool. And he says, are you right-handed or left-handed? I'm like, they done sent me to one senile doctor that they got. I said, I'm right-handed, sir. And then he says, oh, okay. And you look very fit. Do you work out? I said, where is he going with this? I was like, where's he going? And then he says to me, I said, I work out. He says, well, I'm asking you all this. He says, because he says, someone who's fit like you, although you are physically capable of exerting a lot of energy, he says, my concern is that the jumping that you're dealing with, the muscle issue, whatever it may have been, is on your left side, not your right side. Your left side is probably a little bit weaker than your right side because you're right-handed. He said, and I saw all the boxes from moving, so I figured that. He said, I've been in this business a long time. He says, I've seen some people move. They're lifting and doing all this other stuff using movements that they wouldn't commonly use. And maybe you simply just have a muscle issue there and you're experiencing a muscle spasm. He says, I'm gonna give you I don't know if they call it Flexerol, some kind of muscle relaxer thing. And he says, why don't you take this and see if that alleviates this? He says, but I'm not terribly concerned. He says, because at first glance, when he touched it, he said, this side feels a little tighter. I said, well, what about the other symptoms I'm experiencing? Because it is a relief to know, okay, it's just a muscle spasm, but what about the dizziness? What about the nausea? What about the headaches? What about all that? And he said to me, let me just go ahead and do an exam. So he got the little blood pressure monitor, which is downstairs on the table. He got the blood pressure monitor, and I'll tell you why I still have it. What he did was, actually, let me show, come on, let's show him the blood pressure monitor. And what he did was, he did it on my left side first, and then he did it on my right side. And when he did it, I was wondering why he did it twice. Because I'm thinking, I got a pulse, it's not hard to find it. And then he says to me, have you ever had any history of high blood pressure, heart disease, or anything like that? I said, no, I've always been told I'm fine. Now, when I go to the doctor, I'm like a lot of people. They do my weight, they do the blood pressure thing, the little cuff on your arm. I don't know what the thing means. I don't know what the numbers actually mean. So only I ever asked him about is well, did my weight go up or down? Because like I said earlier, I'm a little vain, I admit that. I just wonder, did I get fatter or not? That's all I care about. And so he was like, he said, well, have they ever told you had high blood pressure? I said, I've never been told that before. And so he says, okay. He says, well, your blood pressure is, and he showed me the little thing, it's in the red zone. So he showed me this little chart. Where apparently with the bottom number, so your blood pressure is two numbers, the top number and the bottom number. I think the bottom is diastolic, I don't know, something like that. Here's the bottom number, you see what this is? He says, it is in the red area, show me the chart, because it's green, yellow, pink, red. He says, for where it is located right now, my concern is that this is extremely high for someone your age. And for someone who you say does not have a history of heart disease issues like that, this is pretty bad. And he said, I'm gonna go to my car. He got this out. It's this thing called lisinopril 20 mg. What's that, milligrams? Mm-hmm. And he said, he split the pill in half. He said, I want you to take this right now. Now, I'm not anti-medicine, but I don't know this doctor. He just is somebody they sent to the house. He doesn't know my medical history or anything. And I was like, well, sir, I would much rather wait until I have a chance to go to my doctor. He says, do you have an appointment scheduled? I said, no. He said, well, I just would rather leave you with a little bit of this here and have you take it each day until you're able to meet with your doctor, because I'm afraid that you could have a heart attack or stroke. You never want to hear that, but at 35 years old, that's not something you especially expect to hear. And so, he said that, and I said, sir, why do you think I would have a heart attack or stroke? He says, well, to be quite honest, I'm kind of surprised you haven't had one yet because of how elevated, your blood pressure is. And so I said, well, sir, would it be a problem if I wait a couple days to take it? Because you have to understand, we're dealing with, the holiday weekend stuff, all this other stuff, And I was like, do you mind if I wait to take it? And he says, you can do what you want. He says, but I would feel medically responsible if I did not at least give you this advice and document that I gave you this advice. Because if I were to leave you and you had a heart attack or stroke, my concern is I don't want to feel medically or morally responsible. And this man's looking me straight in the eyes, telling me this. He's a 60-something-year-old Vietnamese man, and he's looking me right in the eyes, like I felt like it's like my grandpa looking at me. And so I said, okay. So I took it right there in front of him. He says, try to have a low sodium diet, try to not have a lot of stress going on, just try to keep your blood pressure low. He says, and I'm going to leave this blood pressure monitor here with you. Now he's building for it. He said, I'm going to leave this here with you so you can check your blood pressure twice. He said, check in the morning, check in the evening when you're most calm. Like sit down for 10 minutes or so, don't talk to nobody, just chill and do it. He says, and document what you see. And then after you documented what you see, talk to your doctor. So I got an appointment with my doctor. I actually just had the teledoc appointment with him. It was a phone appointment. And because I did not go to the doctor's office. And I explained to my doctor, who's my long-term physician, what I've been dealing with and what the situation was, and I read off the numbers to him. He says, your numbers actually are not that bad. He said, what was the numbers from before? I told him the numbers from before. He says, well, the numbers are significantly lower. You're more in the normal range based on the numbers you've been taking over the last couple of days. And I said, well, do you think the blood pressure medicine works that fast? He said, no, it don't work like that. Blood pressure medicine doesn't work that fast. It typically takes a while for it to come down. He says, can I ask you a question? I was like, what? He said, what were you doing on that day, before you called? And I was like, well, I was moving, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was helping some people do this, I was helping whatever. He says, over the past week or so that you've been feeling these symptoms, what have you been doing? I was like, well, I've been doing this, been doing that, been doing the other, So y'all see what happens on camera in my life. You've seen the relationship stuff, you've seen some of the business stuff. There's a whole world that exists in my life outside of just this stuff. I, am in a family where, I help support some of my family, and I do it graciously and proudly. I love doing that. I have no resentment about that. For my team, that's almost 3,000 people, who I feel in some ways responsible for. So I'm constantly working with them, taking their calls, doing whatever they do. There's a lot of parts of my world that revolve around me being there for other people, and within our conversation, we talked about that. And he said, I feel like, he says, you're like a lot of people right now in quarantine. He said, you are so used to operating and over-functioning is the word he used. You're always used to being there for other people, constantly going, while also trying to keep your own life going. He says, and I think your body is telling you that you're overdoing it. He said, I don't think you have a high blood pressure issue. He says, I think that stress and anxiety is making your blood pressure go up. He says, and I'll eat rat. He says, and although you are healthy, you work out, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any of these other things you would think cause high blood pressure. He says, your stress can be just as deadly for you as eating a high sodium diet. He says, and I want you to be conscious of that. He says, because when you're taking your blood pressure in the morning and the evening, you're calm, right? So clearly your body is able to manage its blood pressure, but when you start your day and you're doing the most, use my own words, you no longer are able to manage your blood pressure. Blood pressure goes through the roof. He says, I need you to pay attention to this and consider making some changes. And you decide what that looks like. So the call was this morning, and what I've been doing since this morning when I had the call with him is I've been thinking about changes I'm going to make in my life, and that's why I did this video, because I want to recommend some changes that you all can consider, and we're going to work through this journey together. Okay, I'm going to bring you the journey of whatever's happening in terms of how I work through this, because I think this can help people. One of the biggest things I'm going to do in my life is I am going to stop putting other people before myself. I am a caregiver, I am a provider, I am all those things, not just financially, but emotionally. And there are times at night where I am exhausted and I just want to lay down and go to sleep, but I may take a call to hear somebody's problems. There are times where I am working through 85 different things, my calendar's double booked, and a team member calls me up with a question that they probably could have Googled or asked somebody else. I'm going to set better boundaries and delegate, or just not answer the phone call and let people figure it out for themselves. I am going to stop trying to be everyone's Superman. It is not my job to be everybody's cosmic sugar daddy emotionally and financially and taking care of everybody. That is not my job, nor is it your job. I think that at the end of the day, one of the things I had to realize for myself was, let's say I didn't call the doctor because of what I was having with the muscle spasm issue. I would have never found out about what was going on with my blood pressure, which would have related to the appointment with my doctor and so on. And I could have been a ticking time bomb. Still can be if I don't make these changes. But what I thought about was, I said, if I dropped dead tomorrow or had a stroke and became incapacitated and couldn't perform at the same level that I'm performing right now, everybody who depends on me and who's constantly calling on me, literally they would have to figure it out. They would have to figure it out. So I can't hold this vision in my mind that everybody needs me. They don't need me. I'm choosing to be there for them. And that's not a bad thing. But you cannot be there for people without boundaries and without limits. And that limit is making sure that you're never giving to other people more than you're giving to yourself, or you're taking away things that are vital from you, such as sleep and rest and just mental peace. Sometimes the best medicine is sitting and watching YouTube all night, just resting. There's no benefit of doing that for other people if you're not taking care of yourself. So nonetheless, these are the changes I'm going to make in my life. I invite you to comment below this video and let me know some changes that you may make in your life to make sure you're being good to yourself in the name of self-care and in the name of preserving yourself. I will say this right now, if you know me and we in business together in any way, shape, or form, if I've been behind on deadlines recently, please forgive me. If I don't call you back as quickly as you like me to, please forgive me. At this point in time, while deadlines are important and everything else is important, what's more important to me is my life, and not meeting arbitrary made-up deadlines. You see what I'm saying? I'm not curing cancer and I'm not a rocket scientist, okay? So with that said, whatever we got going on can wait. If I don't return your text messages, charge it to my self-care and not to my heart. So anyway, click like and click share. I'll keep you updated as this journey goes forward. Bye, best friends.